At some point in my career at the British Council, I was assistant country director for Nigeria. Almost without fail, if I went anywhere with my country director, I would say I'm the assistant country director, but people would hear I'm the assistant to the country director. Ooh. Even if you think I'm the assistant to the country director, for example, within 5 minutes of a conversation, you know that I'm not the assistant to the country director. Not that there's anything wrong with being assistant to the country director, but showing up excellent every time, where if you are confused, you will very soon not be confused because I will tell you what you don't know.
We are witnessing the incredible growth of the creative economy. But what role does technology play in accelerating this growth and ensuring that women are not just included, but are leading the conversation equitably? Today's guest is a pioneer who has built bridges across 40 different countries and continues to extend her footprint across multiple countries globally. She has launched hubs for innovation, she has built out creative economy practices, and continues to challenge the status quo in boardrooms and on global stages. This is Women Leaders Unscripted, and this is the story of Ojoma Ochai. Today I have an incredible guest who I've stalked for nearly 2 decades, in a good way. We have the incredible Ojoma Ochai, the MD, CEO of CC Hub Africa, and we're going to be having incredible conversations about career, leadership, fashion, food, and everything in between. Stay tuned. Ojoma, thank you. Like, I'm geeked out. I really am geeked out. People can't tell, but I'm super geeked out to be here. I followed your, and I know that sounds weird. So like in the days of like digital and online safety, we have to be careful about the things that we say, right? But I have really followed your career for, I think, close to 2 decades, or I've just
That's the whole of it. Okay.
And so, I'd love to just dive in, not just your career, but like just what the journey has been. So we'll start from the British Council, because that's kind of like, you started out as an arts assistant. Why?
I actually started out my career in tech.
Interesting.
Not a lot of people know this.
Right.
I'm a trained network engineer. I got admission I didn't get admission to do medicine. So I went and studied chemistry, and then I did network engineering. So I worked in tech for the first 3 years of my career.
Right.
And in those first 3 years, I first worked for an internet infrastructure company. So it was hardcore tech because it's network engineer.
Yeah.
And then my second job was in edtech. It was a South African edtech company. And I lived in Abuja when all of this was happening. And so I thought, and I wanted to move to Lagos because I wanted to move out of my parents' house. But I cannot move out of my parents' house and live in Abuja. It's just not possible. It was just not possible.
Yeah.
So it was, okay, I have a bright idea. I will move to another city. But of course, to move to another city, there has to be a reason.
Why
I can't
you're
just say I'm leaving. So I had a bright idea. I started looking for work in Lagos. But I told myself, I'll look for work in this new arts space. And part of me thought I'd maybe find a job in broadcasting because that seemed like the most obvious entry point through a job. But I started to buy Tuesday and Thursday Guardian, if people remember.
Yeah, and it had like all of the
vacancies,
classified ads and stuff.
Yeah. So I bought Guardian one day and there was a vacancy for an arts assistant in the British Council. I didn't even know those jobs existed. All I knew was there's something in this sector. Tech is becoming boring. It's too hard. It's too high pressure for me at the time. And I thought, okay, I'll move to Lagos, move careers, and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Saw the advert, applied. This must have been at some point in 2005, late 2005. Applied, didn't hear back for months. And then the next summer in 2006, around June, July time, at that point, my dad had moved to Lagos for work because he was heading up the FRCN training school here in Lagos.
Okay,
and so he was living in Lagos. I get called to come to an interview. Like, I'd forgotten about the application. Come to the British Council for an interview around June time. luckily, we were all coming to Lagos to stay with my
So
dad.
bad.
And they sent me the address. And it turns out that the British Council was literally 2 minutes walk from my dad's house.
Oh, wow.
So it's just like, oh my God, this is a sign. Whatever I do, I must get this job. Because the thing that worried me about moving to Lagos was traffic. Anyway, long story short, I got the job in the summer. They told me I could start in a couple months. Went and moved. So that's a very long story
I
to
love
answer
that.
your question about how did it happen.
I love that. But you see, I have so many questions that are popping up like in between. You don't find people these days who say, you had a lot of, I don't want to use the word critical thinking, but you were thinking, oh, I want to get a job. And you were connecting the dots. Oh, there's something, I don't want to use the word renaissance, but there's something happening within the creative space. Why is that? Do you feel like that's can you learn that? Can you learn to be a reader of the times and say, okay, there's a move happening, there's a shift happening. I don't know what the job is going to be called, but I'm going to move in that direction. What do you call that thing? And why is it an important skill or tool or behavior for people, and women especially, to have?
So the thing that I've now grown to call it, I didn't know this at the time,
Right.
but it's synthesis.
I love that.
It's the ability to take in information and make sense of the information that you're taking in, whether you're reading a book or you're hearing or you're just seeing things. It's you take it all in, you process it, and it becomes a thought, which then leads to an action. So I think it's synthesis. And it can be learned, I think. And if I'll keep going back to my childhood because I feel like that's the easiest time to learn a lot of things. I mean, I don't think it means it's impossible to do when you're an adult, but if I think back to how did I develop this skill, I remember when we would go out with my parents when we came back home, they'd ask us to write an essay about what we saw. It was so annoying.
Love your parents.
And then if you missed out like on any critical points, it was a whole week. My siblings and I call it moral talk.
Love it.
Because it's like, what were you doing that you were not looking outside the window to see that we passed water at kilometer 38?
But that's so powerful. It's so powerful.
So I feel like that helped because it meant that I thought through things. Also, my parents were very big on initiative. And there's a memory that's stuck in my head. Once my dad asked me to get, these shoemakers. It's not it's in Lagos, but it's not as common. But in Abuja, we had lots of
those people that had the little
shoemakers
boxes
with the box that clicks.
Clicks. Oh my God, we're showing our age.
And I know. So my dad told me to give a shoemaker his shoes to polish. And then the guy finishes polishing it. And he says, I don't remember how much he says. And I go back to my dad to say, I want money to to pay the guy. And my dad says, can't you use your initiative to pay for it? And it was on the tip of my tongue to say, how many initiatives should I have given him to pay for the shoes? And it was on the tip. The reason I remember it, because if I had said that day, I would have died. I would not be here. But that's the extent to which my parents were really big on initiative. So I feel like there's some skills that you can teach children to not rely on, to think for themselves. And it's like a muscle, I think, and over time. So how do you learn this as an adult? I mean, everything is on the internet these days. And I was reading something the other day that education is no longer the issue, is now whether you want to access it or not. And I know that there's a privilege inherent in that, but in many respects,
there are many resources now.
Yeah, there are many resources that people can use to learn how to think and how to process and how to analyze things. And I think final thing is reading. That's also something my parents really made us do. And not school books, so that goes without saying. Because of course, who will pay your school fees that you will not pass? So there was that, but road signs or manuals. When they would buy anything, they would make us read the manual to understand
Wow.
the protocols around the device.
Right.
So, like,
Yeah.
so I feel like reading also opens you to a world of. You have to then process what you're reading, imagine what you're reading.
Yeah.
So I think those are some things that help with that skill of synthesis.
Amazing. Let's talk about your dad. So, confession. I'm a self-acclaimed daddy's girl. But I also think that fathers, I think like a lot of how I see life was shaped. So when you talk about my dad, even though I was born in Lagos, for like the first 10 years of my life, my dad was in Kaduna.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so anytime he was coming back to Lagos, he would buy like books and things and go visit him. And so just being exposed to this culture that was not really ours, but my father, like, I want to say he encouraged. He was in the military, so he didn't encourage. He's like, you are going to embrace it. You have no choice. And so that's where my curiosity also comes from. And I don't have isms. Like, I don't have, people behave like that because they're XYZ. I don't have that because I sort of like lived and mingled with everyone. So I'm a self-acclaimed daddy's girl. But I want to talk about your dad and just how not being in the shadow of a man like that, but you saw your dad do stuff that wasn't mainstream. It wasn't mainstream to say, I'm going to tutor people in theater arts, and I'm going to move to Lagos to set up like FRSCN training school, and I'm going to take all of these chances, and I'm going to do all of this stuff, even though my friends might be doing contracts in Abuja or whatever, but I'm going to take the road less traveled. Tell me about your dad and how did he impact your life in any way, or your love for the arts? Tell me about that. Are you a daddy's girl?
So, I mean, yes, in the sense that my dad and I had a business that we ran together when I was in secondary school, but I'll come back to that.
I love that.
So my dad, let me tell you about my dad first to paint you a picture of the type of person that he is. And I think my parents balance each other out.
Right.
My dad I would say a dreamer, head in the clouds a bit. And my mom is very practical.
Right.
And so it gave us a really wonderful, in hindsight, grounding. So my dad is 72. He's on his third career. So first, he did theater arts, he did his PhD, blah, blah. He worked in broadcasting for 35 years. He retired. He had his PhD at that point. He retired as Director General of FRCN. He retired. He then goes and becomes a full-time lecturer and then becomes a professor of theater arts, of media and communications.
Right.
That was his second career. When he turned 70 or whatever, he had to retire. He retired. Now he's a consultant for the military. I don't even really know what he does for them, but he's doing something else.
Right.
So he's somebody that, in hindsight, I mean, I didn't think this of him at the time, but now he thinks up something like there's no impossibility.
And he just does
He just does things, right? That's my dad. Whereas my mom will make you think through, aided by some slaps, if you're not thinking quick enough. So I feel like that was the context in which I grew up. When I was young, when I was in secondary school, my dad had a camera business. He was in radio, but he had a production company. That's what we would call it now. We did not know the name of his business, but he had a camera that he would film stuff. So he would film people's weddings or their naming ceremonies. He used to do music videos, my dad, in the early 90s. There was a musician called Danny Shine. They came to film their music video in our house.
I love this. Do you have clips?
And I was my dad's camera assistant. I absolutely hated it. In hindsight, it was such a powerful experience. Right. My siblings used to laugh because my dad and I used to write proposals. We'll see something in the newspaper. We'll start writing proposals. I don't even think any of those proposals ever came through, but we were business partners.
Right.
I remember once I was going back to school. I was in my uniform, back to boarding school. He had a filming job. He took me to that filming job. And the really annoying thing about that job was it was in another school. So I was just like, which kind of... I went to film as a camera assistant. So I say all of this to say I was lucky that I had that unconventional upbringing where I was exposed to different things. But also my parents never encouraged me to I mean, they didn't discourage me, but the things that they wanted for me, I don't think were that traditional in many respects.
Yes.
Except, of course, my mother told me I must get married at a point in time. But otherwise, I think they were pretty liberal for their generation.
Right.
So I was lucky in that regard.
Right. And did that, you come across, not come across, you are confident. Quietly so. Like you don't feel the need to be like, oh, I am here, but you are here. And the way that you go through life is also kind of like unhurried. It's like I'm on nobody's timeline and things like that. And that's so important, I think, the way that I think about for women as well, because now you have like all of these pressures. You have pressures from the internet, pressures from music videos. So young girls, especially today, is like, who am I? How do I show up? How do you show up authentically, and why is that important?
Oh gosh, how do I show up authentically? I think there's two aspects to it. I think one aspect is just biology and just my makeup and the personality that I'm lucky to have is my dad said something recently. My brother and I were there. He said, I don't see specifics. Because I'm sure we must have been having a go at him for something that he didn't notice. And I feel like in a sense, I'm kind of like that. I don't feel any pressure to do anything, really. All my drive, all my motivation is from inside of me.
I love that.
So there's nothing external to me that can really make me do anything. It's a terrible thing. It can be a terrible thing. But I think that what you describe as a quiet confidence just comes from the fact that, I mean, if I want to do a thing, I'll do it. If I don't, I don't do it. I don't even see it. Right. So I think some of it is down to biology that I'm lucky to have inherited.
Right.
But I think the other aspect is also how I was raised. Because again, growing up in Abuja in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, very few families. We all went to like one or two schools. Yeah. There was a culture, I think, where you didn't have to perform. You just were, because you're just living your life. There was also a bit of ignorance, so because we didn't know what was happening. We didn't really have all the information. So I feel like we were shielded in that sense from growing up to aspire to certain things, because you didn't even know those things existed. So I think the nurturing and that has also contributed
to it.
But it's, and I know I've said a few times in this interview that I'm lucky. I genuinely believe that I'm very lucky.
Right.
To have the DNA that I have that allows me to not see specifics. In that, I see specifics in my work, but in the environment around me, not really.
Right.
And to have the parents that I had, and to grow up in the time frame and in the geography that I grew up. So I think it's a combination of all those things.
But you also talk about the cons. What are the cons of, and I'll give an example. In a country, or even in Africa, where we have like gender norms, women are supposed to be like this, speak like this, behave like this. How do you, and I say this again because a huge part of our audience is women. How do you, I don't want to say tackle gender norms because that sounds so heavy, but how do you, I'll give an example. When I decided to lock my hair, I had somebody who I really love. She called me and she said, "What's going on? Is this a call for freedom?" And I was like, freedom? She was genuine because she thought it was. She was like, what, this is you are making a statement. I was like, no, but is my hair growing out of my head? So how do you, I guess, still connected to showing up in a world that says women should be this, say this, dress this, behave this, how do you resist that? How do you resist those norms? How do you challenge those norms and still say, I'm going to be myself and there's really nothing you can do about it?
So I think that's a good question. I think the first thing I'll say on norms is I've been thinking a lot about the fact that when we say gender norms, actually, it's nuanced. The norms for a young or married woman is very different from 43-year-old Ojoma Ochai with a husband.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there's also a nuance to that, which if we really want to unpack, we need to isolate them for what they are. Because there's things I can get away with now as an older woman that if I tried it when I was 25 or 26, it would not have worked.
Yeah.
So I think even with norms, my response or my approach to that has evolved over time. Right. The older I get, the fewer I'm trying not to say the word, but the older I get, the less I care.
Oh, I know the word you were going to say.
Yeah.
I know the word you were going to say.
So I'll start from how did I do it when I was a young woman? We must remember that this will not work for everybody, right? Because again, it depends on so many things. Right. And I always go back to biology.
Right. Because
I don't think we think about biology enough.
Right.
In all the gender conversations, a missing piece, I think, is we cannot take away the place of biology. Yeah. And my DNA, my psychological makeup as a Black woman that was born from a certain region of the country, it plays a role in who I am and how I show up. And it plays a role in what I can or cannot do. Right. So I think that's something that we must start to talk about.
I agree.
But as a young woman, I do feel that there were... I remember at some point in my career at the British Council, I was assistant country director for Nigeria. And almost without fail, if I went anywhere with my country director, I would say I'm the assistant country director, but people would hear I'm the assistant to the country director. Oof. Because I was young, and so they would ask me to come and carry the water or like something. Yeah. So I feel that there are those sets of things where your gender intersects with your age and creates a certain set of problems for you. Right. And how did I navigate that at the time? One of the things I've always been clear on is my work must be excellent. Because even if you think I'm the assistant to the country director, for example, within 5 minutes of a conversation, you know that I'm not the assistant to the country director. Not that there's anything wrong with being assistant to the country director, but if you are showing up prepared, you're showing up professional, and you're showing that you know what you're doing, it's harder then for people to relegate you to, oh, this one is just here for aesthetics. Right. Because she has come with her boss. Right. And he was my boss, but in a different way. Right. So I think that's how I managed it, is showing up excellent every time, where if you are confused, you will very soon not be confused because I will tell you what you don't know and add value and show up in a certain way. Yeah. I remember I did an interview recently, and the first line of the interview was, when we talked to her colleagues, they said Ojoma is an easygoing person who does not play with her work. Which I thought, oh my God, they just captured me in that one sentence. Because I feel like that's one mitigation is I can't control what other people do, but I can control how I show up. So you're never going to have evidence to back up your nonsense perception that you have. Yeah. Whereas now, I feel less of a pressure. Right. I mean, I know my stuff. Like, that's never... You can say anything about me. Anybody can say anything about me. I don't think anybody can say, Ojoma did not do her job well. It's just not possible. But now, I feel less pressure as an older woman. it's like whether you think I deserve to be where I am or not, I really, that's for your pockets. I don't feel any need to prove anything.
To prove any point.
Yeah, anymore.
Right.
And so to your question about how do you navigate that, I think is show up excellent. I don't entertain nonsense.
I love that.
From myself, but from anybody else. So I think, again, I'm mindful that it's from a place of privilege, right? There's some people that have to entertain nonsense because of where they find themselves. Another factor that plays into this is socioeconomic background, which in Nigeria is just getting out of hand because if you show up and they think you have a certain amount of money, people behave very differently.
Yeah.
But I think within the limits of what you can control is I just tell myself, many are mad, few are roaming. So I will treat the environment like many are mad. Yeah. So don't give their madness anything to feed on. Right. And that's my philosophy. It may not work for everybody, but that's how I navigate it. In a professional setting, I know that 60% of the people are mad, but you cannot be mad when it comes to talking about the work that I did. Right. So I don't give people that chance. Right. So that's the strategy I've used.
I love that. And I think even for me, thank you for sharing that. As we, just round up, the thing that you said about I can't control what goes on, but I can control how I show up. Mm-hmm. Because I think sometimes as women, we are, and by no means, it's not easy to show up at work or do all of that stuff. But a lot of the time we can get super granular, oh, this is this. And then you lose. So I love just the image of you being anchored and saying, this I can control, and I'm going to do that excellently. I love the independence is not the word. Control is not the word. It's just the authority of that, or the knowing, the knowledge and the power that it evokes. Okay, let's talk about the creative economy. I said this before, but I'll say it again. You exist in I don't know that there are many people who are doing tech who straddle the intersections of the creative economy and tech. Why would you say the creative economy is important? And how does innovation support or hamper it? Because there are many people now who say, now we have everything on YouTube, all these creators, they are disturbing creativity. That's not creative.
Honestly.
And I grew up, again, I was born in the 80s. And so I remember theater arts people were always those days, they were, what are these people really, what are we really doing?
Yeah.
And so so a couple of questions in there. This creative economy, is it important? If yes, why? If no, why not? And then how does tech either support or hamper it?
So why is the creative economy important? I think it's two levels. One is, if you want to understand the two levels, at the first level, I think you have to decouple this idea of a creative economy. What is creative economy, right? Yeah. It's books, literature, it's music, it's dance, it's film, it's fashion, it's visual arts, it's performing arts, it's all of these component parts. Why are they important, right?
Yeah.
And if I look at my own life, one of the things that I don't struggle with is, again, I'm lucky that growing up, I read a lot of African and Nigerian literature. When in my generation, I know that most people read perhaps only Enid Blyton, Sweet Valley High, is that what it was called?
Sweet Valley, yeah. Mills and Boone. Chase.
Thank you.
James Hadley Chase.
Exactly. So, I read those things, but I read them much later.
Right.
Because the books that my father will buy for you is Nigerian books.
I love that.
Or African books.
Yeah.
So I read Elechi Amadi, I read Pace Setters. That's what I was reading. So I feel that my relationship with issues relating to race and identity as a Nigerian person were formed by being exposed to literature early on, where it was never a case of a certain race is better, because I didn't start reading those things till very later on, when I got into secondary school, probably. So if you ask me, why is literature important? Why are books important? People talk about seeing yourself in the creativity that you consume. And it's a powerful thing, because it shapes how you think about yourself. Right. And in today's world, where we're coexisting in this dynamic racial context with social media, where you're in Nigeria, you're probably somewhere in the middle of Kogi State somewhere, and you're consuming content on Facebook from America, and you think, oh, those Americans are the best things since sliced bread, or the Europeans. I feel like there's a theory, I think it's called narrative transportation, or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But it's this idea of being able to, through art, transport yourself into another context and see yourself in another context. But very early on, those contexts I was seeing myself were other Black, Nigerian, African contexts. So I say this to say, art is important because it shapes who you are. It shapes your thinking. It shapes your confidence. It shapes your identity, how you see yourself. And it's easy to then be true to yourself if yourself is defined. You can't be true to something that is amorphous and is, so I think that's why art is important on one level. Right. It shapes identity, and it's a deep thing. Right. And in some respect, that one value of art struggles with the second value of art, which is around the commerce and the livelihoods, because the art that shapes your identity is not necessarily the art that sells. It's commercial. And so I think one trick that we miss with the creative industries in Nigeria, for example, is because it's so commercial, the art that gets made is the art that people will pay for. And there overlaps, don't get me wrong, but it's
most of the time
it's a spectrum. Yeah. But the second value, I think, of the creative economy is the economic opportunities, where a whole generation of people, creators, filmmakers, working in this building, stuff like that. So I think that's the other value. In terms of how does technology intersect, so the way that I stumbled on this was actually quite simple. Around 2015, I don't remember when Netflix started getting mainstream.
Yeah, it was probably around that time.
It was around then.
Yeah.
I started to ask myself, this Netflix thing is technology, but the content of the thing is creative.
Yeah.
So I remember I commissioned a study when I was still in the British Council to see in what ways are West African, it must have been around 2015 because I was in a West Africa role then. So the question for the research that I commissioned was, in what ways are West African artists using technology? Because in my mind, the big thing at that time was streaming. Also music distribution. This was the hot days of Not Just Okay, all those platforms. And it was like, in what ways are these West African artists using this technology? And the study came back saying not so much. But I knew that if we're streaming content and we're listening to music, suddenly we don't have to go out and buy a CD. There's something that's happening where technology and creativity are starting to intersect.
Right.
So at this point, it was by this time, the study had finished, must have been around 2017 or something like this. And I'm on a UNESCO expert panel for the global creative industries. And so I pitched to the team in Paris at UNESCO to say, can you pay me to do a study on how technology is shaping creativity around the world? Because it was a question I was asking myself. And I needed to know, but I didn't have any way of knowing without doing a study. And I did not have money to do it. I said, let me ask them. Anyway, long story short, they then invited me to write a chapter of a global report that they were publishing to answer exactly that question. And so I got to do a study of 94 countries around the world. I didn't go to all of them, but to understand in China, in Latin America, across Africa, in Europe, North America, how is technology shaping the creative industries? One of the conclusions from that study which I finished in 2020, I want to say, was the digital environment ecosystem, digital economy ecosystem, and the creative economy ecosystem were blurring.
Right.
And that it was almost impossible to distinguish where the digital economy ends and where the creative economy begins. And what does that mean? So if you think of all the things that are the pillars of the digital economy, it's large platforms.
Yes.
It's one example. Broadband internet is another example. But if you think about large platforms, what are the large platforms? Social media.
Social media.
What are we consuming on social media?
Content.
Music.
Right.
Video. Stories.
Yes.
What are we spending our bandwidth
on?
Watching films, listening to music. So that was one of the conclusions I made from the study, to say we actually can no longer draw a line to say this is where technology stops and digital economy stops, and this is where creative economy stops. So when I finished the study, I had a bright idea. At this time, I was working in the creative industry, in the British Council. This was 2020, it was COVID. We were not traveling. I was at home. I was very happy because I was not traveling. But I thought to myself, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? No, I've done this study. Maybe I should go and do something at this intersection of creativity and tech, because I'd done all of these regions, I could see how artists elsewhere were using extended reality or VR. There was no ChatGPT, mind you, at this time. In the study, I read about GPT-3, which was this technology that can convert something to something. I'm like, oh God, this is so interesting. So I resigned. And in my head, I was going to become a consultant and help creative companies understand how to apply technology. But in the course of this, I happened to have a conversation with Bosun Tijani, now HM to us, who was CEO of CC Hub at the time, to say, I'm thinking about doing this thing at the intersection of tech. And he's like, oh, yeah, let's do it together. So that's how we then created the creative economy practice at CC Hub, with a focus on helping apply technology to the creative industry. So this is a long-winded way of answering your second question, which is innovation good for the creative industries? I would say yes.
Right.
I think it's a net positive.
Right.
Are there negatives?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. So on the positive side, the way that I look at it is there's historic barriers to a lot of things that excluded a lot of Africans from creative economy value chains. So before streaming, for example, if we're going to solve the distribution problem for film in Nigeria, we would have gone to build hundreds, thousands of cinemas. But we had VCR. VCR is technology. It's not biology. It's not arts. It's technology.
Right.
And how was Nollywood born? It was because we could do direct-to-home video. If that VCR technology did not exist, Nollywood would not exist. So the way that I see it is, even though the technologies now are orders of magnitude more powerful, more dangerous, it still provides an opportunity that would have previously locked us out of some of these value chains. Right. Another area I look at is skill. 2 years ago, I started to design a program that was looking at what I was calling digital creative skills, like animation or like graphic design or like video editing and sound editing. When I was designing the program, and my thesis was because and again, this was 2 years ago, we're just coming out of COVID. Remote work was this big thing in my head, like, oh, okay, we don't have enough jobs to sustain the number of people we have in Nigeria, whether we like it or not. So if remote job is going to become the next big thing, how can we get Nigerian young people to do these digital creative skills, but for employers outside of Nigeria? So I started to design this program. When I started to design it 2 years ago, and I was looking at, okay, what does it take for somebody to become an expert graphic designer? And it was like 9 months was the minimum.
Yeah.
Today, the project launched on the 1st of July, maybe condensed. 3 months. Right?
Yeah.
So that is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because we cannot wait to train people for 9 months or 3 years.
And then how do you even do it at scale?
Thank
Right.
you. They will die of hunger because they
Right.
will not have work. And
Right.
so I think those are good things.
Yeah.
So I think what we need to do now is to say, what are the risks?
Yeah.
So people are talking about intellectual property risks. And I know this is a really controversial thought, but and the fact that we're training large language models, so things like ChatGPT and so on, with people's intellectual property. And yes, that is true. Yes, it is problematic. Should we stop? No.
No.
I don't think that's the answer. I think the answer is we need to figure out what new business models need to exist in a world where we're training LLMs with people's intellectual property.
Right.
And so, to me, the solution of the risks of innovation like generative AI is to figure out what new business models, what guardrails, what ethics need to be in place for us to exist equitably in this new world, because it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. Yeah. Okay.
That was a very long answer.
But
to your
also,
question.
it was very, I think picturesque is not the word, but like you painted the picture. Like, yeah. There's a theme in your life's journey. I don't know if you picked it, but you always, it's that showing initiative and showing up. So you wanted to go to Lagos and you're like, okay, here's the plan. When it was time to, at British Council, you're like, UNESCO, will you pay me to do XYZ? When it was time to leave the British Council, you're like, you began to have the conversations. I think that whole thing is a powerful lesson in showing up and advocating for yourself and saying, I mean, I'm a woo-woo person sometimes, but you know, how people say what you put into the universe comes back to you. And I think, and I don't know if you were like specific and said, I'm going to do all these things, but I think that you've been very clear into what you put into the universe and what you expect to come back to you. And I think that's so powerful. As we round up, our audience, like I said, is made up of women, mainly women. I mean, we have some fantastic leading men. But what are 3 things you would say to a young woman or a girl who is like, I'm in this back end state or city and I don't know how to start, and I want to build this powerful career at the intersection, for example, of the creative industry and technology, but I don't know how to start. What are the 3 things that I can do to move ahead?
Oh gosh, 3 things. So I think the first thing is, I know this sounds really cliche, but the first thing is the mindset to believe that things are possible.
Right.
Because if you can't motivate yourself and believe that things are possible, then you won't aspire or you won't try to get those things. So that would be the first thing, is ginger yourself.
I love it.
To just believe that I can do things. Don't lose the battle in your head before you even get to before you start. So I would say that's number 1. It's easier said than done. But there are strategies. If it is religion that motivates you, go and look for verses in the Bible, in the Quran, in your religion that encourage you to try things and to believe that good is possible. I think that's the first thing. There are things in your life that will make it look like, no, the world is all designed to hold you back. And it is true that the world is designed to hold you back if you're a young woman. But you can break free.
Right.
And you can only start to think about how you break free if in your head it is possible.
So it starts there.
Yeah.
First.
So I think that's the first thing, is figure out how you can change your mindset. And again, what I'm saying is difficult. It's not as if it's just going to happen tomorrow. It's hard. So that's the first thing. The second thing, again, it sounds like a cliche. Read.
Please read.
Please read. Because there's a lot that people have written in novels, in essays, in journals about a lot that you don't know.
No.
And we spend too much time on frivolities. When I say frivolities, like things that take your time.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm obsessive about. And I'm not saying do what I did.
Yeah.
But I don't really watch TV.
Right.
Because this 3 hours I'm using to watch this series, I don't have it.
Right.
And again, for somebody who works in the creative industries, that's almost blasphemy.
Unheard of.
To say.
Yeah.
But I'm obsessed about what I spend my time on. If I'm going to watch a movie, it's because I've read the review. I know what's going to happen. And I've decided that it is worth my time.
Right.
I'm not going to put my time in it until I've tested.
Right.
Because I don't waste my time. And what that means is I'm really busy, but I have a lot of time.
Right.
Because the things that take most people's time, I'm not doing those things. And what am I doing? I'm reading. And I learn a lot. The ideas that I have that it seems like I'm in the future, they're not ideas that came out of my brain. They're ideas that I read in a book, in a study, in a journal, in an article. Because, again, there's a lot of knowledge in books and literature and writing. So read. Or learn. If reading is not your learning style, just learn. Spend your time productively learning.
Right.
Because there's so much knowledge out there. And the third thing I would say is ask. The worst they'll say is no. Again, when I say this, people say, okay, they come and like, if I'm at an event and I say this, people come and like ask me for things and I'll say no. There's nothing that says the people that you ask
will always say yes.
You get what I mean? But ask. Because sometimes after the 200th time or after the 50th time or after the 10th time, you will get a yes. But if you don't ask, people don't know that you want something or that you need something. So again, those would be the three things. Open up your mind to the possibilities, read and learn. Ask. They're hard things.
Yeah.
They're easier said than done. But if you want easy, then I cannot help you.
Go do something else.
And to your point about creative industry specifically and tech, I think it's the same things. If you're interested in tech, read about tech.
Yeah.
If you're interested in creative industries, read about it and send the cold email. Before you send the cold email, research how to send the cold email. Yeah. And I think underlying across these three things, if I may add a fourth thing, is you have to have a spirit of excellence. Because a lot of people, frankly,
do not.
And that's the only polite way to say it. And it can be small things. Like you send an email, it's not formatted properly, and you say you want an internship. I don't have time to teach you to spell or format documents. And these are things you can learn. And it just shows me that there's no initiative. Why do I want somebody with no initiative coming to draw me back in life? You see what I mean? So I think people have to think about quality. Often when we do programs at the Creative Economy Practice for creatives, I often say when I manage to join at the beginning, we had an incubator, for example, recently for social media creators. And I said to them, not all of you are good social media creators. And I mean, you can become good or you can do something else. And those are really the two options. Yeah. So I think quality of output, people are not going to give you things just because you asked or just because you're a woman or just because. That is not in my world. So I think that would be something else.
So powerful. And on that powerful note, thank you so much, Ojoma, for talking with me. It's, for sharing about your journey and just also showcasing the depth, you're a badass. I mean, I said that before, I say it again. Just the things that you know and the way that you know it and the way that you speak about it is all so powerful. Thank you for sharing the time with us. And on that powerful note, this conversation has been incredible. For me, I've learned about, so if I do my 3 things, this is what I learned. The value of showing up. You have to show up. If you don't show up, I'm from Delta State, Saple, and they will say, now who they not see, they not bless.
Exactly.
Right? So the value of showing up. 2, being excellent. You've shown it, you've talked about it, you've talked about your dad, you've talked about what shaped your mind. And I think
and my mom.
And your mom. Sorry, I'm a daddy's girl. Sorry, dad. Sorry, mommy. And your parents and how they were just like super intentional, from like the essays to like observing your world. And then the 3rd thing, I would say that I learned from this is how you synthesize, how you connect, how you're like, okay, that's going to be a wave, that's going to be a thing. And even the audacity, you're like, UNESCO, pay me to do X, Y. Who does that? So thank you so much. We really loved having you on, and we hope like you come back again soon.
No, I mean, thank you for asking me. I'm really honored to be asked, and I've had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.